Mill Valley, California was founded due to Mexican land grants to two foreigners in the 1830s, after a period of missionizing and an even longer period of native inhabitation. It is a small town located in Marin County, not far from the San Francisco Bay and north of the Golden Gate recreational area. The U.S. Census in 2010 cited a population of 13,903 and a city size of only 4.8 square miles, or 12 square kilometers. On September 26, 1974, the skeletal remains of a child were found by a hiker near the Mill Valley Golf Course. He could have been dead as long as 2 years. There were no obvious signs of cause of death, no indications of abuse or malnutrition, and nothing to suggest he had been buried. To this day, the child has never been identified. Until the 1960s, Mill Valley remained a rural area. A military base had been established during the Korean War in the 1950s, but the Mill Valley Fall Arts Festival became more iconic of the area. By the 1970s, Mill Valley became associated with the wealthy elite of San Francisco, who would earn their money and then move north. Despite the wealth of the area, the hippie counterculture still made its way to Mill Valley, with Cascade Dam, established in 1893, being closed in 1972 and drained in 1976, allegedly to discourage nude sunbathers and skinny dipping. This means that the Mill Valley John Doe could have come from a wide array of origins, ranging from hippies to the elite. Though there were no signs of malnutrition evident in the skeleton, the child would have been very small for his age, which is believed to have been between 4 and 6. Since the body was skeletal, there were few distinguishing features. There was brown head hair still with the remains, and his teeth had a gray-blue discoloration, which is consistent with the use of tetracycline antibiotics, though it is possible the discoloration could have been caused by something else. John Doe was originally believed to be female until DNA testing was performed, perhaps because of the size of the bones that were found, which formed an incomplete skeleton. Only the decedent's skull, ribs, and vertebrae were discovered. As far as I know, the remaining bones have not been located. Though the Doe Network cites the discoverer of the remains as a hiker, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children states on their poster that the remains were found in the 100 block of Country Club Drive. To this day, based on an examination of Google Earth, Mill Valley's Country Club Drive is very hilly and thickly wooded, making it probable that a hiker was in the vicinity or that a nearby resident was out hiking. The Mill Valley John Doe was found wearing an olive green windbreaker with a hood, a green and white striped knit shirt, and a blue t-shirt, all in children's sizes. Also found with the remains was a red ladybug half-inch stick pin, an illustration of which is on screen now. Again, he is believed to be between the ages of 4 and 6 at the time of his death. His race, height, and weight are unknown, but he may have been white. He had brown hair, but his eye color is unknown due to decomposition. He was likely considerably small for his age and may have been treated with tetracycline antibiotics at some point in his brief life to account for the discolored teeth. The use of tetracycline antibiotics in children younger than 8 is contraindicated today due to the characteristic blue-gray tooth discoloration that can occur in developing teeth. Prior to 1980, however, this wasn't the case. Tetracyclines are a family of powerful wide-spectrum antibiotics used to treat a variety of bacterial infections that include acne, urinary tract infections, pneumonia, STDs, and even plague. What happened to this child and where he came from can only be spoken of in speculation. He could have died as long as 2 years before the discovery of his remains based on the condition of the bones. He had remained undiscovered for that period of time. Since only the skull, ribs, and vertebrae are documented as having been found, what happened to the rest of his bones and clothing? How did he die? Why was his body discarded so casually in the wilderness beside Country Club Drive? Since the most probable cause of John Doe's tooth discoloration is a history of treatment with tetracycline antibiotics, it can be deduced that at some point he received medical care. He was small for his age, yet did not apparently suffer from malnutrition. Could John Doe have been the product of negligent parents? Maybe from hippies or some other nomadic person or couple, and his body left in Mill Valley prior to his parents leaving town or otherwise going into hiding? Another possibility, given that Mill Valley is largely considered an upper-class neighborhood of wealthy people, is that John Doe came from the opposite end of the spectrum entirely, and was from a well-off family who discarded the body to avoid an intrigue. They could have told inquisitive neighbors that he was away at school or living with a relative or abroad. This is all completely speculative, of course, but since there was no obvious indication of the cause of death in the remains found, I have to wonder if he was, at the time of his death, being treated for some bacterial infection and was unable to recover. His death, then, would have been a tragic accident. But why conceal the body if that was the case? Otherwise, perhaps his death was due to negligence, which would be something frightened caregivers would want to hide to avoid getting into trouble themselves. Again, these are only some hypotheses for how this child's death might have occurred. Without more information, the true cause of death and the reason for discarding the body are as unknowable as his identity has been to this date. All that being said, someone must remember this child, a young boy who simply vanished one day. At some point he probably had medical care because of the likelihood of tetracyclines causing the discoloration of his teeth. He is believed to have been between the ages of 4 and 6 and died between 1972 and 1974, with the remains discarded near Country Club Drive and the Mill Valley Golf Course in Mill Valley, California. He had been small for his age and had brown hair. His race is uncertain, but he was possibly white. He was found wearing an olive green windbreaker, a green and white striped knit shirt, and a blue t-shirt. Notably, he was found with a red ladybug half-inch stick pin. Please bear in mind that these are real stories about real people and treat them with the respect they and their families deserve. To contact the authorities regarding this case, their information can be found in the description. Someone out there knows the truth. I only hope that someday they come forward. Thank you, and good night.